Hey everybody, thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. Today we're going to be talking about something that it almost makes me feel like I could be considered a stereotypical old fart for this, but it's a simple fact of the matter. Today we're going to talk about respect, or more specifically, how people seem to think they deserve it being handed to them without having done anything to merit it. How people seem to think that their simple existence merits respect because their opinion is somehow more important or more respectable than whoever it is they have an issue with. The thing about it is, I've had this interaction personally with people. I feel like with a lot of these things, it sounds like I'm picking on a younger generation. I'm doing the stereotypical old people complaining about the ones coming behind them and everything that's wrong with the next generation. And I honestly, I don't feel that way. There's a lot of things that the younger generation is getting right, and a lot of things they're doing that are good, and I don't want to detract from that. But conversely, there's a lot of places where I think the changes have not been improvements, and the general understanding of what it is to be respectful is one of those things where I don't think it's been a change for the better. I've had the experience personally where I've had somebody who was in their early 20s who got into an argument with me, and at the time I was late 30s and just not in the mood for this kid's crap. And it was over something stupid. And I didn't say anything that was directly disrespectful. Not that I don't have the capacity to do it. When I finally wound up losing my temper, it was an entirely different matter. But in the initial issue, it was regarding performance stuff at work. And a simple fact for the matter is, if you're not doing your job, I'm not going to tell you you're doing good. If you're not living up to the standard that you're expected to, why in the hell would you be entitled to being treated a certain way? But more importantly, as a general rule, I will treat people however they treat me. It's even if it's someone I don't like, if it's someone I can't stand, then I avoid them. I make a point of not having to interact with them. And if I don't have a choice in how I interact with them, they get cold detachment and pure professionalism because that is the way I was taught things are supposed to be handled. I don't go flying off the handle saying, you owe me respect and you need to. The issue I'm really trying to bring up here is exactly that. It's nowadays, everybody wants respect and wants to be treated how they think they deserve to be treated. But they're not willing to reciprocate and they're not willing to do it first. They will I have literally had people tell me, I'll treat you with respect when you treat me with respect. I'll treat you with respect when you frickin' earn it. The concept that these kids are working with, and I can't even say it's completely kids. It's more the half a generation behind me. I don't know, on the scale of how these things are measured, I don't know the exact term for that. They're not young enough to be my kids, but they're not old enough to be considered my peers. I really don't. I'll have to look into that, I guess. I feel like that's something I should know, but I'm getting off the track here. Point is, I've got these kids, for lack of a better term, and it's a sense of entitlement. It's don't you disrespect me if you want me to be respectful to you. Well, don't walk in the door acting like a dumbass, and maybe you'll get treated with some respect. Don't walk around with a sense of entitlement thinking that you're going to do whatever you want and I have to respect that. I don't. There are certain standards of behavior that if you're not meeting them, I don't owe you a damn thing. And the fact that I'm a professional when I'm in a work environment more often than not keeps me from losing my temper or acting like an ass, which I'm fully capable of doing, I promise you. And instead, I try and carry myself professionally and with a certain amount of decorum. And then I get these arrogant tossers that are coming in, and unfortunately, it's not even just young people. They are probably the worst propagators of it. I've had to deal with very unpleasant older people, elderly people, people old enough to be my grandparents that are just ignorant assholes. Ignorance is not an age-defined thing. But the arrogance of expecting respect when you don't give any seems to be more the province of the young, for lack of a better way of putting it. Because I've noticed that you may get a lot of disrespectful old bastards but it's more they're used to looking at you based on your place in the scheme of things. I think, at least in a professional setting, when I've had to in a work environment, I've had to deal with people that think, oh well, I'm spending money here, that makes me your god. And the person who came up with the customer is always right. I guarantee you was either a customer or a manager who never had to deal with them. And I completely support the concept of voting with your dollars and spending money where you feel like it is worthy to be spent. However, no amount of money that you spend, and I don't care what the setting is, what the environment is, no amount of your money is worth another human being's dignity. It doesn't matter if it's the kid making your sandwich at whatever fast food dump you're running through on your way to wherever you got to be that's so important. None of that gives you license to treat them like anything other than a decent human being. And if you don't do that, you are not worthy of respect. They don't owe you a damn thing. And furthermore, the problem, this is compounding into something else. I promise this is going somewhere. We have a problem with the fact that we all want to be respected. We want to be treated with respect. And we want this from everyone across the board. We want it from people we don't agree with. We want it from people we don't treat with any respect. And that's not how it works. If you disagree with somebody and you're copping an attitude and all of a sudden you start saying, well, you need to respect my opinions. Well, it goes both ways. You need to respect their opinions too. And with us coming up on an election at this point in time in the United States, and it's one of the 4-year big ones, it's time to elect the president that nobody understands, and they give the guy way more, or girl if it ever happens, way more credit and authority and power than they actually have. It's one of the reasons why these people keep getting elected is the American public is so ignorant on what the president actually does that they vote for promises that cannot be fulfilled by that office. But that's a whole different topic. But with everything that's been going on and everything leading up to this election and everyone saying my senile old white guy is better than your old white guy, everyone is real quick to throw around the you need to respect me, but no one wants to respect anyone else. And it doesn't work that way. It's goes back to the whole sense of entitlement. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, from a purely logical standpoint, it's a mental disconnect. I don't understand how people have this thing where they think they're being disrespected, but they don't see the fault in their behavior that is causing it to happen. And they're doing this on a regular basis, and you see it in social media, which is it's a whole big can of worms of things that are wrong and right with the world. I mean, it's fantastic that we can network and we can share thoughts and ideas and have our voices heard. On the other side of that, you can tell a whole generation of people have got the mentality of being able to say whatever they want without getting hit in the mouth. And I'm not advocating physical violence as a response to everything, but problematically, sometimes it does work. And when it comes to a matter of respect, you are a lot less likely to be disrespectful towards another person when there was a chance that you would get smacked for it, that there would be some sort of physical penalty to you popping off at the mouth. And I don't necessarily think that violence is always the answer, but sometimes it's fun to get the question wrong. And the people who are doing the loudest screaming for respect my thoughts, respect my rights, respect my individuality, respect my responsibility, are the ones that want it at the expense of everyone else's thoughts and feelings and rights being respected. It's the people who are valuing their own well-being. It's ultimately the most selfish way of dealing with things in life. And anyone who's been listening to multiple episodes will see this as a woven thread through pretty much everything I talk about. It's unavoidable because, to me, this is one of the biggest issues facing us as a society and as a group and as a people. And it really is all about respect. It's about treating other people with basic human dignity, with the kind of way you want to be treated. People need to get past this roadblock of it's what they deserve and realize what they deserve is what everyone deserves. It needs to be put back into our mindset that respect is something that is deserved and has to be given in order to be received. Nobody is going to respect you because you're demanding respect. Demanding things is never going to accomplish anything. And ultimately, again, I hate to keep bringing up the current election stuff. Anyone who knows me to any real extent knows I think the American political system had the potential to be one of the greatest things in the world, and it has gone so far off the rails that it is completely ridiculous. And loosely ties into this subject because if you look at the candidates and the major running figures and the ones who are receiving all the media and social political attention right now, they're no examples. These are not people anyone wants to emulate. Your choices are go with the person who is obviously slipping and declining in their cognitive abilities and has a lot of really questionable traits. I mean, everything from the sniffing kids to the probably being spoon-fed everything they're saying in this entire campaign. Not that, most candidates don't have speechwriters and everything like that, but it's one thing to memorize a speech and talking points before you go out in public, and it's another thing entirely to not have the cognition to be able to do that and have someone in your ear telling you what to say. And that's just kind of my observations on that. And on the other side of the coin, you have a bully, a loudmouth guy who pushes his own greatness, and I will be respected because I do this and that and this and that, and I'm the greatest. And that's a whole nother disconnect too. And realistically, I don't like either candidate. I've said it multiple times in multiple ways, and that's not going anywhere. That's not going to change because I'm kind of old-fashioned like that. Respect is earned, not just handed out. It's not just given. It has to be deserved. And I don't think either candidate is deserving of my respect. They're damn sure not deserving of my vote. But I'm also not one that focuses on that particular issue.
Listen to the 48 Hours podcast for shocking murder cases and compelling real-life dramas from one of television's most watched true crime shows. Go behind the scenes of each episode with award-winning CBS News correspondents and producers in Postmortem, a weekly deep dive. Listen to 48 Hours wherever you get your podcasts.
But it is tied into this in the fact that look at our leaders. Look at the people we are polling and putting out there to be. These are the people that should be the ideal. These should be what everybody is striving for. When I was a kid, they used to say, if you work real hard and you do good and you do good in school, you could be president someday. I look at it now and I go, if you work real hard and you do good in school and you treat people decently, you'll be way better than the president. And we're at this point where the people we should be looking up to, the people we should be holding up and saying, these are our leaders, these are the pinnacle of what we have produced, are people that you wouldn't let in your own home, that you wouldn't want around your kids or your family. And you wouldn't want to get in an argument with them because they don't know how to be respectful when it comes to somebody disagreeing with them. And you have the way they treat us is one of the ultimate disrespects, because massive slap in the face if we stop and think about it, because we go along with it. We are being completely disrespected by these people. They think we're stupid. They think we are gullible, and for better or worse, they're right. We continue to play the game. We keep guessing that we know where that red queen is when it doesn't matter which card we flip, it's going to be black. When we have that as our pinnacle, as that is the highest rule and law in the land, are these people that treat literally everyone with disrespect. The issue with this is people don't look at it in terms of, I have to respect other people. They look at it in terms of, they're not respecting me. They don't ever stop to question why they're not being respected, because they're being specifically told not to. And it's pushed and it's hyped and it's fed to us, and it's ultimately just a terrible, terrible thing. So we have a mentality of disrespect coming from the top down. We have a system in place that's supposedly founded on rights and respecting those rights, respecting the rights of others, respecting ourselves enough to realize we're all human beings. We all need to be treated equally and decently. That respect is no longer a commodity that we're trading in. You don't need it to be successful. There's proof right there. It's respect has fallen by the wayside, and its absence has become a catalyst for more control, more problems. The massive amounts of these people who are out there right now just stirring shit up on a unprecedented level. There are things that are wrong, and they need to be picketed and protested, and I get that. I understand that. But the destruction and the ruination of people's lives and the riots and the just massive outpouring of assholes who are out there talking about, we're going to take our respect. We are going to get this. We are right, and you will acknowledge us, and we're going to make you do it. If they had ever had any actual teaching and training in what respect actually is, if they had ever actually received any genuine respect in their lives, maybe they wouldn't be so thirsty for validation and for acknowledgement and for this quote-unquote concept of respect that they don't really understand. They don't have any genuine idea of how respect actually works. They are confusing respect with validation, with being told they're right, with their desires working. And it's, if you're sitting and you're looking at it from a strictly objective standpoint, it becomes this major issue that we need to address. This needs to be redressed. You have people out there now, and it's gotten to be so ridiculous, and so just every side is pointing to the other side saying they're doing it. And it is literally everyone. We do not have these bastions of respect and decency anymore that we can point to. We need Mr. Rogers back. Mr. Rogers was a wonderful human being who respected everybody. He took care of his mailman and all his friends in his neighborhood, and he taught people to be decent to each other and be respectful. And it wasn't complicated. I don't know where this got lost. Why did respect fall through the cracks? Why is respect so bereft and absent from our society that just the promise of it will make people act in manners that are completely contradictory to their own best interests? Why are we so thirsty for it? What has gone wrong with us? Why do we not understand these things better? Why do we not handle ourselves better? And why is it when people start to point it out and start to bring it up, no one questions that they are instantly mobbed and tagged and ostracized and labeled as being just whatever it is that's horrible and unacceptable in the eyes of the people who don't want us to respect each other. They don't want us to treat each other decently because they stand to gain nothing from it. If we all started treating each other decently and we started being just be nice to each other. You don't have to like somebody to treat them halfway decent. I treat a lot of people that I can't stand decently because they haven't given me a reason not to. And I'm not perfect. I'm not walking on any water anytime soon. That being said, I have a lot of people that I can't stand that like me just fine. I've had people say things to my wife and to people that I know because just the fact that I treat them with respect is completely misinterpreted as I like them on a personal level or something like that. I've had people I can't stand that I have made a point of not engaging with them beyond the basic interactions that you have to have with another human being. And then later on, they're talking to my wife, and they find out she's my wife. Oh, yeah, he's a great guy. We get along great, and da-da-da-da-da. All I do is treat him halfway decent, just the way I want to be treated. Don't act like an ass. It's really not that complicated. And the thing is, a lot of people don't seem to realize that's the answer. It's not complicated. It's not going out and flipping over cars and burning people's shit to the ground because you don't agree with something. It's going out there and just be decent. And people will see you're being decent and they will reciprocate. It's more or less in human nature when you get down to the brass tacks of it. You treat somebody halfway decent. You treat them the way you want to be treated. As a general rule, and this may be having a little more faith in humanity than I really want to admit to, but as a general rule, if you're decent to somebody, they're going to be decent to you. If you don't act like an entitled ass, people are a lot more inclined to listen to you or to help you. If somebody disagrees with you, if instead of instantly going on the attack and being insulting and degrading and demeaning, if you can present your case without being insulting and degrading and just a general ass, you get a lot better feedback. I personally, if I disagree with somebody, I'm generally respectful about it. I try and keep it based on facts and not make it personal, because having a difference in beliefs doesn't necessarily make someone a bad person, depending on what particular belief is on the table. But as long as you treat me with a certain degree of respect, I'll return the favor. But as soon as you start to make it personal or start to make it petty or start to make it insulting, I just stop engaging. It's my personal approach that it's not worth the time or the frustration of dealing with somebody like that, because you cannot. They've drunk the Kool-Aid. They bought in. They are all in on their BS because they can't validate their stance with facts or figures, so they make it a personal attack. And there's no answering that. And those are the people that are going to tell you you're not respecting them. And they're going to say it completely unironically because they've been fed that that's what it is. And they've been fed this by people who stand to profit off of division. People who have made entire careers off of conflict between different groups of people. And realistically, we need to address it. We need to redress it. It will make the world a better place. It will. I'm not the first person to say this. There's a 2,000-year-old book that a lot of people put a lot of stock in where one of the main characters basically said, "Don't be a dick." And I'm going to try and make a point of avoiding any real religious conversations here because I personally don't judge anybody based on that stuff. You believe whatever you want to believe. If it makes you happy and if it makes you act like a better person, more power to you. But it's there. Do unto others. It doesn't have to be a religious concept. It's just basically being a decent human being. Be respectful. You don't have to like somebody. You don't have to agree with them. Just don't be a dick about it. And realistically, thanks for listening. That's what I had to say. And once again, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. Like us on Facebook. Tell your friends, tell your family. And thanks for listening.